Hi guys, we are back again. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Okay, back to where we stopped. It was a night of expensive rituals performed at four cardinal points in the healing home, all in a bid to bring Dikogo back to the land of the living. The healer had carried out his usual divination before the rituals. He knew that his penitents were around as soon as the vehicle tilted to a stop. He dashed into one of the shrines and came out with a big male monkey. The healer unalived the monkey in the open and in the watchful gaze of the visitors, holding the neck with the left hand and the limbs with his legs. He allowed the red liquid to flow into a bowl containing cowries. The monkey struggled for life and rescue, but the hold on it was too strong for escape. Within a few minutes, the struggle ceased as it gave up its ghost. Chicago and his wife exchanged glances and were terribly shaken. The results of the divination were released there and then. Chicago was poisoned by someone close to him. The native healer declared that his rituals were the only cure that could work, and if the patient failed to pass through the rituals within 4 days, the consequences would be grave. I am sure, said the healer, that the ritual of the midnight can clear the poison in his system. The rituals actually started in the midnight. The travelers had arrived at Idoko at 3 p.m., the departure day. They were aware that they would sleep over, so they were ready for that. They improvised one or two items for feeding and had some reserved wares for changing over. One of the huts in the healing home was meant for their lodging. Adigwe was confined into the hut. The healer had pointed out that they came along with her in error. He ordered that she should hear nothing and see nothing. Dikogo was ordered to tell her nothing even when they got home. The rituals were meant for men. Everybody except Adigwe was inside the shrine at the commencement of the rituals. The native healer ordered Dikogo to remove his wares, and in less than a minute, he was as his creator created. The healer handed over to him a cup of concoction to drink. He did. Thereafter, a container of powdery substance, known as the healing essence, was poured on his head. The substance scattered all over his body and stuffed his nostrils. He attempted to breathe a good quantity of it. It was flushed into his nasal system. He coughed hard and unconsciously in his bid to recover. Suddenly, he succumbed to the floor, whereupon the gathering shouted in consternation. The healer quickly ordered that no hands should touch him so that the efficiency of his treatment would remain intact. Eventually, he woke up on his own. The next stage of the ritual featured recitations of incantations amidst clicking and clattering sounds of metal bells of different sizes. They were recited at intervals as dictated by the native doctor. Dikogo was also meant to learn and recite a short song as part of the proceedings. It was Herculean initially, but after a number of attempts, he sang it with a good level of mastery. Having mastered it, he was made to sing it at 4 different spots inside the shrine. The rituals had not ended, but the healer had gone so far. It occurred to him suddenly that the ritual of the midnight had a time lag and that it must be concluded within the time specified for it. He increased his pace in order to beat time. He brought out a calabash of another substance and poured the contents into a big clay bowl containing some quantity of concussion. The healer washed his face with a cap full of the liquid and asked the cog to bathe with the entire quantity. The cog complied with the instruction. The doctor dragged his patient to the most sacred spot in the shrine, and after some recitations, the ritual ended. It was his habit to address his patients and people around him at the end of his rituals, so he addressed the gathering. I am a Kembu the healer. The enemies of Dikogo had almost completed their mission before you decided to come. You've done well. The rituals that we have completed are the only remedy to his case. I assure him and all of you here that within a period of 9 days, his healing will be completed. He will survive and live with all of us. He ended. At the end of the 9 days, Dikogo remained sick. Dikogo was pined away in the hospital bed almost 1 year since he became sick. He was not recuperating at all. His features had started to wane as a result of the cumulative effects of drugs, concussions, rituals, and abnormalities in the functions of his organs. In the language of one of the relations who had not seen him since the sickness hit him, Dikogo was shrinking to a little measure. The man was a university teacher, a professor who came back from Britain, where he had been for a decade. He was a research fellow in the tragedies of William Shakespeare. The man said he took his quotes from Julius Caesar, one of the tragedies of William Shakespeare. Dikogo had lost about 6 kilograms, and it clearly showed on his looks. His skinny and handsome face that made him appealing to everyone had lost color. The sickness had depleted his sturdy and masculine arms and legs. The sinew in those arms and legs looked shriveled and feeble. Looking at him was a pathetic exercise. Dikwagu could no longer restrain himself from thinking about his situation from time to time. He did a history of his predicament in one of the sessions and paid attention to the hospitals, laboratories, and the native doctor he had consulted. He discovered that it was in error that he worked with laboratories ever before consulting one or two doctors. The doctors were in a better position to prescribe the particular test he needed. The first laboratory scientist he consulted enjoined him to consult his doctor because he discovered some anomalies in his system. The second also did, but the third prescribed a number of drugs and dosages as a way of helping him. He was disturbed when he recalled that the second laboratory scientist had asked him to allow his system to take care of the problem. The man told him that the major and minor organs of the body suffer a lot of injuries from time to time, and they recover on their own, more often than not. His case would not be an exception, and for that reason, he was asked to allow some time to elapse and see if it could heal on its own. The zeal to get well immediately overtook all other reasons, so he consulted the third. The drugs he bought in order to save some money had errors in prescription and dosage. He had taken them for 2 days when he discovered that they were reacting negatively to his system. He became weaker along the line, so weak that his limbs could not carry his trunk. He discontinued with the drugs and consulted a doctor. The doctor who treated his children in those days. The doctor examined the laboratory results and the drugs he had taken so far and shouted in bewilderment. He booked Dikog for another round of tests on those organs and took him to a program of his own treatment. The doctor refused to diagnose to Dikog the level of injuries done to his organs by those drugs. Even when Dikog impatiently asked the doctor to tell him, the man insisted that he would not. Dikwago thought about the occasion he attended at Obodani on the eve of the commencement of his sickness. It was his father's friend. He was extremely happy on that occasion that he took alcoholic drink much more than his system could cope with. As he drank from a number of species, lager beers, palm wine and brandy, the first doctor told him that he would not have bothered himself about tests and drugs. He said that it was possible for the combination of species of drinks to choke one of his organs and result in a hangover condition. People in such conditions easily recover after 2 to 3 days without any form of medication. Someone in that condition should disengage from all day activities